I mean, if you Joel and Brock all team up, you'll start the new the golden era there at Gold Coast at Gold's Gym.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I have the pleasure of bringing you the long-awaited interview with Australian natural bodybuilding champion Pete Hartwig. Pete is known throughout social media as one of the most artistic posers in bodybuilding, possessing a powerfully built physique which he combines with his beautiful and expressive posing style that can only truly be described as art. In this interview, Pete describes the story behind the famous Rose posing routine, as well as his power building style of bodybuilding that is heavily influenced by golden era bodybuilding. Enjoy. Right, let's get started. Man, damn, I'm such a fan. I'm really such a fan. Sorry, I just woke up.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I guess different time zones. It's
Yeah,
about 3 o'clock in the afternoon here.
yeah, in Sydney,
Um,
right? You're in Sydney.
I'm actually in the Gold Coast now.
Gold Coast.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah.
And why'd you move up there?
Well, last year I enrolled in a diploma of screen and media, and so I wanted to get into filmmaking, learn how to make films and everything, and just the restrictions in Queensland and in Gold Coast were a little bit more relaxed than in Sydney, and
Mhm.
so plus I got some family up here, and yeah, so I basically moved up and studied film for a year, got my diploma, and like started getting into filmmaking. And I like the lifestyle here too. Like it's a little bit more relaxed, and I love the beach.
Yeah.
It's just really nice, and the temperature here is like pretty good too. I mean, I don't know. I guess there's a lot to like about. I really like Sydney as well, but I really have enjoyed the Gold Coast the time I've
Yeah.
been here too.
I mean, if you Joel and Brock all team up, you'll start the new the golden era there at Gold Coast at Gold's Gym.
Ah, yeah, yeah, definitely.
On the beach
I'm
and
trying.
everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to come up. Actually, I made a trip down to Sydney a couple of weeks ago, and we filmed a whole bunch of content
Yeah.
um, with Joel at the gym, and then out to Bondi and that sort of stuff. And I've because he's been leaning up, and you've probably seen that he's done a few competitions, and he's
Yeah.
looking great. And yeah, I've been leaning up a little bit myself as well. So I'm not. Probably not quite as lean as Joel, but I'm like maybe I would say the equivalent of like maybe five or 6 weeks out type conditioning. So good enough to do photo shoots and
Nice.
at least stand next to him. And so yeah, I'm trying to get him to come up to the Gold Coast because a whole strip along this area, there's some beautiful locations, even in the hinterland as well. Like there's so much amazing like nature like
Yeah.
around like the forests, mountains, but also like the coastline as well. Up and down, even as far south as like like New South Wales coast, like Byron Bay, those sorts of
Mhm.
areas. There's some great spots.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Australia's a beautiful place, man. Very unique, I think. Very unique. So, man, I've been wanting to do this interview now with you. Oh God, since a year or two ago. It's a pleasure to have you, and big fan, as I said. Uh, when I remember
It's
when you saw and you finally achieved, because you had been trying for a while, the Arnold Classic in Australia. That was 2020, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, 2020 Arnold Classic down in Melbourne.
Oh,
Literally like only a few days before everything got locked down.
yeah,
So
literally,
timing was
it's
just
perfect.
like fate. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was for you, man. You'd been training for so long for it, and I was so happy when you got it. It seemed like you really, from the footage that I've seen, that the crowd was really also behind you because would I be right in saying that you really brought something special to the Arnold Classic stage?
Yeah, well, I like to think so. So I guess I like to think that I try and bring something special every time. And I guess one of the things that I believe that I uniquely bring is a very a very classic style of posing that kind of resembles that sort of like 70s and 80s era. But I always try and put a lot of feeling into my routines as well. So most of the routines that I have created, they have some sort of personal story behind them. And so, which has some sort of relevant meaning that's tied to something that's happened in my life, kind of thing. So it's almost like I guess that's the same as like almost any artistic expression in performing arts, kind of thing. And I think that helps really connect with an audience as well, because you can tell the difference between someone who is really posing and really presenting themselves with a lot of passion versus someone who's sort of, they're going through the movements, but they don't really feel it and they're not really engaging, kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of different styles. So I'm not saying that my style's like any better or anything, but I think one of the things that I do bring that is unique is that the storytelling in my posing routines, and also really trying to capture a lot of the movement style and types of poses that they did in the golden era.
Yeah. What's the story behind the rose? And that, this is where I'm leading before we get into bodybuilding.
Yes.
You're so well known, not only for your masterful posing. I mean, you've got that wonderful book that I still admit haven't purchased, and I apologize. I wanted to review it. You know, you're a posing master these days. There's no doubt about it. If I was to say who are the best posers right now in the world, I'd say you and Rough Diesel, without a doubt, right? And you have this, as you said, golden era approach, very classical, artistic, expressive, emotional. What is the story behind the posing routine that won you the Australian Classic and the Rose?
And the Rose. Yeah. Well, actually, the Rose for that routine in Melbourne, it had some relevance in my life to I was seeing someone at the time, and they were kind of very supportive in helping me through that prep. And I don't know, I was like stuffing around one day, and I did like a little magic trick with a rose and kind of thing. And I'd done that before in like a routine a few years back, but in this particular instance, leading up to that competition, there was a song, El Corazon, just like a Spanish song that means the heart, kind of thing. It's a very, very romantic, and the music, it's so intense and so passionate. I was like, oh my God, it just invokes such powerful emotion that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make a routine to this. And then I guess what I was going through at that time, it just kind of came together. So it's probably one of the more, I guess, romantic type style movements and stuff like that. And I worked with a couple of dance choreographers to help with the transitions between them. And so, but also careful not to make it to more of a dance routine than a bodybuilding routine, because you still need to have that essence of bodybuilding. But yeah, without going into too much detail, it was kind of a little bit of a love story and romance that it kind of represented, and it just helped bring that passion out a little bit more.
That's amazing. It's amazing you've mentioned, firstly, that your experiences shaped your routine. That you literally are also putting the present events in your life in a routine, because it's really living in the present in that respect, which a lot of people fail to do, putting emotion in all that. But of course, sorry, just one point. The fact that you said you also even practice with dance choreographers, and that is only something that I hear, you know, hails back again, echoes back to the pumping iron kind of thing, you know. That's what I wanted to say. It's just really amazing. But please.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to continue on with that, I think there was a lot of guys back through the golden era that really worked with dance choreographers, and to help with that. Oh yeah, what I was going to say about living in the present. I mean, that is something that I really try and focus on, but I haven't mastered it yet. So even with practicing that routine like hundreds of times over and getting everything down, when I'm in the studio by myself, I can just kind of let go and be in the moment and stuff like that. But I still get affected by just the anxiousness of how big of a deal that was to do that, because I'd already competed and missed out. I think it was either 3 or 4 times before. I think it was three previous times that I had come runner up to getting that pro card. And every year I'm getting a little bit older, and it's just like, oh man, like it was almost like if I don't get it this year, I don't know if it's going to happen, kind of thing. I've already missed out so many times, and I just had all that pressure running through my head and everything else. And so I found it really difficult to stay in the present. And it probably wasn't until about a quarter of the way through the routine that I started to feel it. So I was like, when I came out, I was still focused on all this, what's going to happen if, I don't get into the call outs, what's this, this and this, and all these other things. But then, once I hear that music and I start to feed off the audience reaction and stuff like that, that's when I can channel my energy back into that present. And that's where you get that real feeling.
Oh, it's just amazing. It's amazing to hear your journey. It's really cool. I'm glad we started off with that, because, it could be just another, what's your bodybuilding routine and diet, blah, blah, blah. But no, I think I really wanted to talk about posing. You're very well known for it, but your style is so unique. It's really lovely for you to share that. And I can understand that you can feel vulnerable during that period. You said because you're challenging yourself from understanding from your previous failures that is giving you anxiety. Also, you're expressing yourself and you're vulnerable because you are expressing yourself, your own stories like that. So I really appreciate all of this. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
All right. Now, of course, as when I announced this, God, when was it? A year or two ago, that I was going to interview you.
Oh yeah, we had so much trouble.
Yeah, I know.
Organizing the time zones and everything. And
I had a whole bunch of questions here, and I do have still many of my own, but I do want to also touch on some of the questions that people have asked. Firstly, now you're what started off your bodybuilding journey, would you say, and when was that?
Oh, so I started, I guess, going right back to the beginning when I was a kid. Let's go back to when I was probably like 9 or maybe even 10, probably 10 years old. I used to watch like movies and see like, guys that were like super ripped. I think one of them was like Arnold in Terminator, and seeing that and be like, I want to look like that. And just really getting into fitness. But I was also like such a small kid as well, and so it was something that I had that drive to want to do something more about it as well. And so I started getting into I guess at that such a young age, getting into like calisthenics training and stuff like that, so push-ups, chin-ups, and that sort of stuff. And then I started doing like dumbbells, barbell work when I was probably 14. We had like our first class in PE at school, and then basically I got some dumbbells and barbells and stuff for, I think it was my 15th birthday, and I really got into that. And I was very diligent with it too. It was kind of just like I would do it all the time. And I think also because I didn't have the best time in like primary school and high school as well. It was like not not just a passion, but also an escape for me as well. It was something that really helped me stay in the present. And it was just like, I really enjoyed the feeling of training. And also I could see it changing my body. So I was like addicted to the feeling of training and the personal development. And, you know, it took me away from other stuff that, you know, looking back upon, I probably should have spent more time dealing with, to be honest, but it took me away from that. And at least it was distracting me with something positive that kind of added value to my life instead of, you know, getting into alcohol, drugs, that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so I finished high school and then went to university pretty much straight away. And I studied exercise physiology. So I was like learning all about, and most people who do, they end up going into like cardiac rehab or musculoskeletal rehab. And so I did all those courses and stuff like that. But I took way more electives in like nutrition and sports psychology and training, strength and conditioning and stuff. I really wanted to go down that way and started getting into personal training. And that's when I noticed my results really skyrocket, because I was taking proper, like, rather than just kind of randomly guessing and maybe I'll try this or try that. It was like, oh, here are like this is what, you know, the elite level strength and conditioning coaches implement with elite level athletes. Yes. And I, you know, it's like, okay, this is why it works and this is all the science behind it and stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. I started building my own programs and sort of monitoring my own body and doing that sort of stuff. And then I got a job as a personal trainer at this gym, and there was a few other trainers there that were competing in this natural bodybuilding titles. I think it was back in 2006. And I was pretty close to comp lean already, just because just the lifestyle I was living. And then they said, oh, are you getting ready for the show? And I'm like, no, I just live my life like this. And they're like, oh, you should totally compete in it and all this. And so I did that show, and I ended up coming third in the state in my first show. And then I did I got a little bit leaner, and I ended up winning a couple of weeks later. I won like a junior state title. And then that's sort of what sort of kicked off my bodybuilding journey, because I kind of, I don't know, something I devoted so much time and energy to for such a long time. It was just like, oh, I got addicted to, I don't know, I'm winning. I'm winning. And it's like, okay, cool. So I started doing more, and then eventually, winning more titles in like the open categories. I started winning like open titles in 2012, and then I traveled overseas in 2014 and won the Natural Olympia, and came back in 2016 and won the professional Natural Olympia in classic physique. And I've just kind of continued that since. It's always been a part of my life. I mean, there have been times where I have felt like it was consuming my life too much. And because I'm a very intense personality, very obsessive. It's like I can get very, very tunnel visioned on something and almost let some of the other facets of my life kind of slip while I'm going for this one thing, you know, whether it's like a business venture, a relationship, or you know, winning a title kind of thing. And it's almost not even like a very holistically healthy behavior, but it has actually really helped me kind of thing. I'm trying to win a world title. It's just like I'm tunnel visioning myself more than anyone around me is. And so, yeah.
When's your birthday, if I don't mind you asking?
September the 9th.
Okay. Yeah. That's unusual. Yeah. I would have thought with that kind of behavior, you would have said you were a Sagittarius.
Okay.
I'm a Sagittarius, and I have the fault or advantage of having tunnel vision as well. Extremely concentrated, but yeah. Anyway,
It's interesting. You kind of like you get the strength, but you have to get the weakness that comes with it. There's always that. Yeah,
exactly. That's a very interesting story. Not many people start off with that fantastic education, knowledge, and background like you have. and it is obvious in your success that it's your application of that knowledge has helped. Um, Most people have to kind of accumulate that knowledge, but yeah, I mean, well done. And I didn't know you were natural Mr. Olympia. That why isn't that talked about? I mean, everyone talks about the Mr. Olympia, but I think there should be more noise about the natural Olympia, because you guys have also fantastic physiques, and that should be celebrated. My own opinion.
Yeah. I think it's I guess like sort of maybe not so much view it. I guess it's not as impressive. It's like the natural Mr. Olympia is still very, very small compared to Mr. Olympia. And so it's kind of like, oh yeah, it doesn't create enough. It's not larger than life enough for it to create the same sort of hype as the Mr. Olympia as well. But I guess there's also sort of the speculation around it that it's just like that sort of natural bodybuilding has, particularly at the higher levels, where it's kind of just like, oh, are these guys really natural? And it's like, well, if they are, if they're not, then it's just like, why don't we just, support whoever's the best regardless of what they do, kind of thing. So I guess there's a few issues. And then also I think they don't have the same sort of promotion and reach either.
Is it a drug tested show? I'm curious now.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah. The years that I did it, they did some drug testing. Yeah. So I think with natural federations in general, it's always like a contentious issue, because sometimes they'll do drug testing, and drug testing is like, proper drug testing is expensive. And so they normally can't budget to drug test like everybody, or if they do, it's more like just kind of a basic sort of screening, and then they might do like I guess more detailed testing on, say, they'll normally test like the overall male winner, the overall female winner, and then maybe a handful of other people there as well. So I mean, yeah, there's a bit of drug testing and stuff in it.
Regardless, it was just something I was curious about. Now, with your bodybuilding, you said you started off kind of, I'm assuming in your teen years, but really kicked off after your studies. I'm assuming you were already in your late teens, early 20s by then.
Yeah, I think I did my first competition when I would have been close to 21 years old. I think it was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny, your story about what motivated you. I've got a similar story, having watched Incredible Hulk as a child with Lou Ferrigno in the early 80s, running home to watch Incredible Hulk, and then as a teenager seeing my first Arnold film, I was like, oh my God, look at those arms, and wanting to be just like Arnold. So yeah, I think we all have that. Everyone that follows that kind of golden era look has a similar story in that regard. But it's just funny to hear. It's funny. Your influences, I guess, in your bodybuilding approach, what would you attribute that? Because you have a very golden era style of training that I've noticed. I think I've heard you even talk about it. You call it something like power building. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So where does that come from? Where does that influence come from?
Yeah. So the influences of my training style, my training systems, come from a combination of science. So even though like I'm a scientist by trade, I still take on board a lot of anecdotes, because even with scientific evidence, scientific literature, there's a lot of stuff that it's difficult to study. So with golden era style training principles, doing, it might be like a pre-exhaustion superset, or like drop sets, or like different types of methods and stuff like that. It's kind of like harder to quantify and put that into a scientific test to say, okay, how much volume can we do? So typically scientists will be like, shove that aside. What can we quantify and what can we say is definitively and objectively better than one or the other? And it's sort of like wishy-washy about the old school principles. But I'm like, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. So just because you can't quantify it the same way, it doesn't mean it's not working. And there's a ton of anecdotal evidence from these guys in the 70s and 80s that show that it's pretty effective. It's just hard to implement that in a randomized double-blind control study with people, and also for the time frame that would be needed as well, because you see a lot of hypertrophy studies in science. You know, they're not done over like a 5 or 10 year period that an athlete would need to build that kind of mass. They're normally done over, okay, we got these people who do 12 weeks and these people who do 12 weeks and we found this thing. And so I guess I'm sort of deviating a little bit off there, because I guess my influence is quite complex. It's just like, okay, I have this very solid scientific understanding of how things work, but then there's also like, I'm willing to drift outside of that and say, okay, what happens if I implement these drop sets? And then there might be, you know, I guess mechanisms that make sense scientifically, you know, with you know, time under tension and metabolic adaptation and stuff like that, but not necessarily proven to work. And so I implement a combination of both. So the science seems to suggest that mechanical stress is important for muscle growth, and also total volume accumulated is very important. I mean, those things seem to correlate highest with muscle mass. So every program that I do, I normally try and structure so that over time they will get better. And so it'll have elements of like sort of powerlifting to it, where a couple days a week, I'll pick like a compound exercise, and I might not even go as low as, say, you know, powerlifters go. Just will be lower than, say, hypertrophy. So it might be somewhere between 3 and 6 reps, something like that. And then long rests in between. So I'm trying to stimulate as much muscle as possible and build up strength capacity. But then I do like hypertrophy style training and try and accumulate volume for a lot of the rest of the session, which is sort of, I guess, that power building style. But then as I progress through the program, I'll even implement some of these, like, I guess, old school techniques that they used to use. So I think it was like Mike Mentz's heavy duty program. He used to superset like an isolation exercise with a compound exercise, like maybe like a chest fly, and then go straight to like a bench press and stuff. And so I've found that stuff doing programs like that has really helped me as well. And then also even implementing stuff like, you know, drop sets, partial reps, and rest pause sets to help kind of really burn out the muscle and fatigue the muscle after you've done, you know, your solid base level sets, to make sure you tick those boxes that enough mechanical loading, and then I've got volume accumulation throughout the session, and then at the end of the session it's just like, all right, I'm implementing some of these other things as well.
That's very interesting. So I've heard you talk about your powerlifting as I mean, not powerlifting in respect of 1 rep maxes, but powerlifting type of training, where a typical 3 to 6 repetitions are standard in that type of training. And your hypertrophy on top of that, so you're covering strength, you're covering muscle building, and the golden era elements like, for example, you've touched on Mike Mentz's heavy duty approach, pre-exhaust system, and training to failure. Would you say, in summary, that's the combination that you like using in your training?
Yeah, definitely. I think some of the key elements is, definitely something that produces strength gain over time. So eventually you got to put more weight on the bar, but also training close to failure or at failure. A lot of my training, I do train I do train to failure.
Why is it important for you? And I think I know the answer, but I think it's important for the audience to know, to include, for example, the concept. I mean, you've really stressed on the importance of increasing strength over time. Why is that important for a bodybuilder to continually do? What's your understanding and reason for it?
Yeah. So I think it's important to increase strength over time for a bodybuilder, because more strength means that you have a capacity to lift a bigger load. And if you can lift a bigger load, then that will help stimulate more muscle and also allow you to accumulate more volume over time as well. So for example, if you wanted to just do 3 sets or 4 sets or 5 sets, but your strength not going up, the only thing you can do is just more sets. And eventually there's only so many hours you can spend in the gym. And so at some point you have to have more weight on the bar.
Exactly. I mean, I've been speaking about this recently to other natural bodybuilders, and the way that I train, for example, is very similar in that respect, that one needs to understand the importance of increasing strength, mainly because it will have a major effect on one's structure, increase bone density, stronger joints to which muscles attach to. So if you want a stronger if you have a stronger foundation to which muscle can build on, it is natural that then when you stimulate hypertrophy on a stronger foundation, it should translate to larger muscles. And I mean, would you say that this is why you combine both powerlifting and hypertrophy, with that in mind as well, with strengthening the structure to then allow muscle to grow further?
Yeah. I definitely think that helps as well. Like having stronger foundations, like stronger structure of like your whole body, even I guess like the neural system, like getting better neural adaptation. It's just like, yep, you're building a bigger support system for the musculature to develop. Yeah.
So it's a very important point there as well, like being able to use and having adapted your central nervous system to use heavier weights is crucial in then being able to perform them and lift what you consider in your physique to be a moderate weight will then be increased as well. And then you'll be able to perform the movement much smoother if you're neurally adapted at a heavier weight. So it's all really important. Yeah. Are there other golden era influences that you put in your own training other than Mike Mensa, like other styles of training, or do you just really enjoy the training to failure and principles of heavy duty training?
Yeah. Well, I guess some of them, like some of the motivational videos are from someone like Tom Platz. And like I haven't followed any of his workouts and stuff, but I guess it's more like an attitude kind of thing, where it's just like you see some of those videos and it's just like, man, he's just working like crazy. And it's kind of just like taking, I guess, that kind of attitude and that kind of mindset like into your workouts, but also programming like really intense sessions and that sort of things. Like I think there was this where he's doing like leg extension and he was getting someone to push down on him. He's screaming at him, yeah, a little bit more, let's go. And he's just like and it's just like watching that. I mean, I think that sort of stuff is really good for building camaraderie as well, which I think is so important. So in general, I feel like bodybuilding can be a very isolating sport. But I think when you have that social aspect, that camaraderie, and that sort of people encouraging each other and working together on these types of techniques and things like that, I think, that's something that's really important, even more so from a psychological perspective, as opposed to just physical.
Absolutely. I do want to go on that angle, but just finishing on the training questions, because I do want to ask you about Joel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yourself, because I know you guys are a tight group. But Regarding your training, then, I know this is the typical question that you always get from people, like, but if you were to describe your training program over the week, how would it be split? What kind of exercises are you using? Rep ranges, etc. Can you describe that for the fans?
Yeah, absolutely. So it definitely changes.
Mhm.
So like anything, the answer to all my questions is like, well, it depends on circumstance.
Exactly.
So when I finished my film course and I hadn't been doing much training at all, like I was so busy. So if I'm like hectically busy, I'll probably only do like maybe a 3-day split or
Mhm.
something, and it'll probably be like full body and then upper body and then a lower body kind of thing. And it'll be quick workouts, and I'll often superset a lot of things as well. And there'll be almost all compound movements because I'm basically just trying to get the most efficiency for the very short amount of time that I have available. And that's what I would recommend to most people who live a very, very busy lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it could involve, things like a squat, squat, bench press, probably like a deadlift or a lunge or something like that, and then some like pressing movements and some pulling movements just to oppose each other, and then it would be 3 or 4 sets of each kind of thing, and it's just a very basic program. But then when I have a little bit more time, like I have recently after finishing my film diploma and then sort of transitioning back into a little bit more fitness coaching, some at the gym more anyway, I implement either a 4-day split or like a 5 split. So over the last 14 and a half weeks, I've been really recomping my body a lot more. So back into, tracking my calories, macros, all that sort of stuff, and actually implementing, a little bit more structure to my routine instead of just whenever I can fit it in. So I moved to like a 4-day split for about a month and a half. And now for the last probably 9 weeks, I've been doing more of like a 5-day split. And so that will look like a push, pull, legs, and then a full upper, and then a full lower. So I have a frequency of training each body part normally twice a week. And the push session will normally involve something like a heavy pressing movement. So it'll be like a dumbbell press or incline dumbbell press, or for a long time I built my chest off just barbell bench press, just typical bench press, just like how much can you bench, and just like, yeah, I'm just going to build that up. But I busted up my shoulder pretty bad a couple of years ago, and it's I don't know, it's something about the movement when I get it into those lower ranges with the bar, it really irritates that part of my shoulder. So I might be able to do it again soon, but for the last year or so, I've been doing heavy dumbbell press. And so I can still get that deep range. And because I have more flexibility with the dumbbells, I can sort of move it around so it doesn't tweak that injury. And so, yeah, it'll be like a heavy dumbbell press, and I'll probably do 4 sets, 4 to 5 sets. I mean, it just sort of changes because it's just like at the start of my training block, it might be like, 3 or 4 sets. And then by the end of the training block, I'm wanting to do a little bit more volume. So it might be, say, 4 to 5 sets kind of thing. So it'll slowly increase. And then with the rep ranges, it sort of works down over that block. So I might start at like 10 to 12 and then work my way down to, say, like, 3 to 6 kind of thing. And then I'll go on to like another exercise, which will be, say, I'll normally implement like 2 compounds and an isolation. So the next one might be like a dumbbell fly. I like to go really heavy on dumbbell flies. And I'll probably do, 4 sets of, say, 8 reps on that. And then I'll go to maybe another pressing movement. You can kind of reverse them. It just sort of depends on, I guess, what's more important for me. For a while, I really just wanted to bring up my chest. So I have some body parts that I think structurally more advantageous. So my lats, I have very, very long lat insertions. So they are just there. And they sort of expand and grow so much easier than, say, like with my chest. I've got very, very wide clavicles relative to my height, but I don't have a very long body. So with Arnold, he had a very, very long distance
Yeah.
from origin to insertion. So his pec's like here somewhere. And so with people with that sort of structure, they could probably get away with doing a little bit less chest, and they're still going to look very big, very full kind of thing. I think Joel's got a very similar structure to that too. Whereas like my structure is probably a little bit more similar to say someone like Danny Padilla or Franco Colombo kind of thing. So it's just like, yeah. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't have that really long muscle belly on my chest. So I like to make it more of a focal point. Sometimes that even means bringing one of the isolations for chest up the order of the workout so that I can, because the earlier in your routine that you do the exercise, the fresher you're going to be and the heavier you can lift on it. And so it's like, I really want maximum stimulation for my chest. So I'm going to bring dumbbell flies and go heavy and bring it right up the order kind of thing. And then I might move on to say like another press movement. So it might be with a machine, or it might even be like an incline press or something. And I'll do that for another 3 or 4 sets. And then I'll move on to a couple of the isolations. And sometimes I'll pair chest with either biceps or triceps. And I'll normally have 2 exercises there. And it'll just be different angles. So it's doing curls. And I like to do this as well. I like to sometimes with my push days, I'll pair triceps with back and biceps with chest. There's not really sort of a right or wrong, but I find that when I've done like a lot of pressing movements, my triceps are a little bit cooked, so I can't go as heavy on the tricep isolation. So then but my biceps are still reasonably fresh, so I'll hit the biceps there. So I might do like an incline curl, and I'll do say, maybe 4 sets, and I'll keep the rep. I normally keep those rep ranges a little bit medium to high. So probably 8 is probably as low as I'll go on an isolation, like curling movement or something. I won't do. The only time I do those really low rep ranges, like 3 to 6, is on like a compound lift, like a bench, squat, deadlift, that sort of stuff. I won't normally apply that to normal like isolation exercise and stuff. So I might do anywhere from 8 to 15 reps on that. And then I'll go after that, I'll do another type of curling movement, which could be anything from a concentration curl or even like a cable curl or something that hits a different angle, but also the leverage might be different. So with a cable, the sticking point is going to be in a slightly different spot to say like an incline curl. And so it changes the strength curve just enough so sort of getting stimulation in different ways for that workout. And then most of my workouts have a very similar structure to that. So when I'm doing back and tries, it'll start off with like a lat pull down or something like that, and then like maybe another rowing. So I'll either use 2 rowing movements and like a pull down movement, or 2 pull down movements and 1 rowing movement, depending on what I'm focusing on for development over that training block. Same sort of thing, like 4 sets, anywhere from sort of starting off with maybe 12 reps, working my way down as low as maybe 6 even. And then for the rest of the workout, typical hypertrophy rep ranges, sort of 8 to 15, like normally 3 to 4 sets, and then building up over time, maybe 4 to 5 sets as volume progresses throughout the program. And then pairing with a couple of tricep exercises, and the same for say legs. And then the upper body workouts toward the end of the split, they will be probably more exercise variety, but less volume per body part. Mm-hmm. And so the reason I do that is that I almost have 1 day per week where I'm really beating up that body part. So it's like chest and bis, I'm beating the crap out of just those 2 body parts. Back and tries, I'm smashing those heaps. And then when I'm onto hitting the frequency for those body parts the second time, I might even still be a little bit fatigued, a little bit sore from the first part of the workout, but they're still probably fresh enough that they could take, a moderate level volume workout kind of thing. So I might be like, okay, like I can still do 4 sets of chin-ups kind of thing, but I've only really got like 1 or 2 back exercises, and then maybe one chest exercise, and then it sort of fatigues me just enough and brings my total weekly volume up, but then I'm fresh enough for the next week to hit the progression that I need to hit for the following week. And then I obviously calibrate it as well. So if I'm finding that my performance over time I can't recover properly, then it's just like I might need to taper back the volume a little bit, because it's easy to get very over ambitious
Yeah.
in terms of what you want to do in the gym.
It's really awesome. So you also, from my gathering now, using a heavy and light kind of phases during your week. The heavy really going to stimulate a lot of strength and muscle. The light days are going to also obviously help, not just in building muscle, but in recovering as well. I'm assuming so. That's a really
Definitely.
It's very it's actually very much like Robbie Robinson's or Franco Colombo's approach. And even most golden era bodybuilders actually had that kind of heavy and light during the week to training. And it's funny you mentioned you got those Franco lats, because when I talk to other people about you, everybody says, yeah, you're like Franco, with your super long lats. It's have you gotten that compliment? I'm assuming it's a compliment for you, but have you been compared to Franco?
Yeah, definitely. I get compared to Franco a lot. So when I'll post like a photo, particularly if it's like doing a similar sort of pose and a sort of look to one of his photos and stuff like that, people go, I thought this was a photo of Franco. Particularly if I add a filter and grayscale it, they'll be like, oh, I thought this was like a photo of Franco. So yeah, that happens a fair bit.
Yeah, I think it would happen even more now that after your photo shoot with Joel, like on the where he's standing and you're on the floor just like Franco. It's just literally a side to side comparison of that classic beach shot of Franco and Arnold. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Were you guys looking
so
for
cool.
that? Were you looking for that look? Were you hoping for that comparison to be made?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when we organized the collab, I was like, it would be really cool to do some of these like kind of replica shots, very similar to like Franco and Arnold, because we have like very similar structures to them. Yeah.
That's awesome. You had started talking about friendship, camaraderie in the Iron Game, and that is very obvious with you guys in Australia, you, Joel, and Brock. Do you hope to build on that? And how's your collabs going? How is that collaboration with Joel and Brock? I mean, it's obvious that it's very appealing to the bodybuilding audience. It hails back to the golden era. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going quite well. I made a trip down to Sydney a few weeks ago, and then caught up with Joel, had coffee at his house and stuff like that, and just talking about I guess life and like training ideas and what we're doing with our bodybuilding journey and that sort of stuff. I definitely think that like friendships like that really valuable in terms of your pursuit in bodybuilding. And then catching up and doing collabs, and I'm trying to get him to come up to the Gold Coast for a little while and do some while he's still in contest shape, to get some really good stuff. But like, I think it's like anything, it's so vital for people to have like connection in their life, I guess, whether it's like through like a social sporting team, or through family and stuff like that. It's like human beings need to have a sense of community for mental health, basically. And same, I guess, it's so similar to, I guess, like other apes, like chimpanzees and stuff like that. And the studies they've done on them, when they're in isolation, they just don't function well at all. And so I think having friendships, camaraderie, stuff like that, people that you can identify with, particularly because I guess, I don't know, bodybuilding, it's not something that I guess every person does. And so sometimes you can sort of feel a little bit out of place sometimes in some circumstances, but then you have people that, it's just like, yes, I have this connection. This person values the same things that I value, and you kind of it's really helpful.
Yeah, sharing that passion. I agree.
Mm.
I agree. Is there more collabs that's going to happen between you and the guys there, or in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think there will be. We don't have any dates or anything organized at the moment, um, but we have talked about it, and something that's definitely on the horizon.
Awesome. Couple of last questions. We're almost approaching the hour mark, and I don't want to take too much of your time.
Yeah.
You said you were a scientist by trade. I personally am interested
Mm.
in hearing more about that because I myself am a scientist. What do you do in your life outside of bodybuilding then?
Yeah. So I work as a personal trainer, like part time. So with my science, basically, I got a degree in human movement studies, Bachelor of Applied Science, with a major in exercise physiology. And basically, I kind of use that to work, in like different settings. So for a while, I did lecturing in health and fitness, like just Cert 3, Cert 4, that sort of stuff. And then I've done personal training for a very long time. And then I also work doing like contest prep as well. So I guess it's not like a specific sort of job that I got my degree and now I just uh, I've never really needed it to get a job. But it's just useful in terms of, I have that knowledge and everything to be able to implement the skills
Yeah.
that are needed to carry out the job kind of thing. So I do that as well. At the moment, I'm trying to get more work in like the film industry as well. And so I've started getting a few jobs on set, doing things like art decorating, and just like sort of casual runner jobs and stuff like that, which have been really, really cool to do. And yeah, those are the main things. I do online coaching
Mhm.
as well. So I've got all these going on. I'm actually looking to sort of consolidate it a little bit so I'm less scattered. And so but I think it helps to have a little bit of that flexibility, particularly with trying to get more work in like the film industry as well, because sometimes it's kind of like I guess more unstable than say other industries and stuff like that. Where it's like, oh, I might have a job come up and then like nothing for a while, and then so forth. Yeah.
Understand. Yeah, finishing off with your products and stuff. So you obviously came out with that great uh, posing book that you came out with and was promoted by Artemis Dolgan. Oh yeah, that was actually a question from one of the fans. Let me see if I can get the exact question up here. Um, damn, I don't even know if I can find it anymore. Hang on. It was a question regarding your collaboration with Artemis. Here we go. Question, quote, from the Barbell Club. I'd be interested in hearing about his time with Artemis and Golden Aesthetics. Are they on good terms? I'll never forget seeing his posing routine in Columbus, Ohio. So it's actually somebody who was there.
Yeah, cool. So they would have seen me at the when I traveled over there and did the Arnolds. And yeah, that was cool. Yeah, so I'm no longer with Golden Aesthetics. We parted ways like a few years ago now. But I would say on quite neutral terms. There's no real like animosity or anything. Kind of just went our separate ways, basically. So yeah, we haven't really organized the collaboration or anything like that. Sort of just moved in, I guess, different directions, I guess.
Yep, cool. And you were just talking about your products, your services. You're on Instagram. You've got your own website. What kind of services do you offer for personal training, coaching, etc.? Can you talk about your products? I think it's people might be interested who are watching this video.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I offer a coaching service. So basically, whether you are someone who just wants to lose a little bit of weight, tone up, or specifically get ready for a competition, my main thing that I do is basically help people gain muscle and lose body fat. So if you want to recomp your body, that's basically what I do for people. And so that requires implementation of training, implementation and education in nutrition as well. But I think one of the most important things is like accountability and support, because people can buy or download a program off the internet or wherever they get it or whatever, and they they kind of get stuck along their journey. But if they have someone to constantly check in with and sort of update things when they hit a plateau, or give them guidance for areas that they don't really understand, and just giving them that pathway for them to achieve their results. So I do that, and then I also go into contest preparation as well. So I've done pretty well with that. I never usually have like a ton of athletes competing. I normally only have like a small group. But most of the guys and girls that I do prep, almost all of them have made it to the podium. So I'd say that's probably that's something I'm pretty good at, is being able to help someone with the contest prep. And like the earlier you get in, generally the better. So I prefer to do at least a 15 to 20 week prep, as opposed to just a really rushed 10, 12 week prep. And the other service I offer is posing coaching as well. So posing choreography. So every time there's a show in Queensland here, I do a fair bit of choreography for people. So if people like, they might have an idea in their head, but they don't quite know how to flesh it out and put it together. And I think helping someone realize that, particularly if it's your first time doing it, or you don't have a lot of experience with it, I think it's really helpful to have someone do that with you, do that for you, kind of thing, and sort of teach you the blueprint. And then after a while you can start to do it yourself. So yeah, mandatory posing and posing choreography for pretty much all categories, but specifically like classics, like the main thing I do, and also bodybuilding.
Awesome. That's awesome. I think you're going to get a lot of people asking you those specific things, because you're such a great representation of it. You
Thanks.
You I guess walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So in that respect, and yeah, I mean it's a great. It's been a great conversation, man. It's really been enjoyable.
Yeah, likewise.
I think I'll end the interview now. I can't thank you enough, Pete, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and very honest and open with all your answers. I really appreciate it, and hope that we can do it again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate you having me on. It's been really good. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. One final thing I forgot to ask: what does the future bring for Pete Hartwig?
Yeah, the future. What am I going to do next? Well, I would like to maybe compete maybe 1 or 2 more times before I retire from bodybuilding. After everything happened with the pandemic and everything was shut down for a while, I did consider, okay, I might not compete again, because there's definitely other stuff that I want to do in my life, as I'm 36 now. And so when I was a little bit younger, bodybuilding was probably my highest priority, but now I'm looking a few years into the future and thinking about, I can't do this forever at the level that I'm doing it. I want to think about maybe one day having a family, putting more focus, more emphasis on I guess building a life outside of bodybuilding, or everything that comes with that. And also getting into film and entertainment and stuff like that. I love that sort of stuff. But in the next probably year or two, I would love to do maybe a couple more shows before I before I finish. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Awesome, man. All right. Again, Pete, thanks very much for your time. Been a great talk. Hope we can do it again. And I was thinking of an idea. If you guys ever get together, you, Joel, and Brock, personally in a group, it'd be good to talk to the three of you, like a little golden era conference. Well, otherwise, maybe Joel and Brock are up to just having a four-way conversation. Would you be up for that in the future? If we
Definitely. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Cool. I'll see if we can organize something like that. But anyway, thanks again for your time and have a great Sunday.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, it's Monday here now. So yeah.
All right, Brad.
Thanks again. Yeah. All right, bye.
So that was Pete Hartwig on his style of bodybuilding and posing. Pete clearly explained his training style and choice of exercises, and I invite you to go back to review this interview and take note. As most natural bodybuilders explain nowadays, building a strong foundation through compound work is paramount in building a strong-looking natural physique, and it takes years. Regarding his posing, I was very impressed by Pete's honesty and sincerity, and his willingness to open up and explain how he really puts his emotion into his posing art. And there is no better way to express his style of posing other than art. The emotional input, the thought, and the feeling he places in it, which mesmerizes the crowds and is now so obvious to us now that he has explained it so clearly in this interview. At least for me, it was wonderful to hear that there was a story behind these routines, a love story in fact, and that even though he could be left vulnerable on stage, he really has the balls just to go out there and do something different and represent his own expression of bodybuilding. So I do hope you have enjoyed this interview with Pete Hartwig, and if you have, please give the video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and leave me your comments and click the bell button to be notified of future videos. Of course, please follow Pete Hartwig on his own YouTube channel and Instagram, and if you're interested in reaching out to Pete for coaching or his products, you can reach him via social media or his websites, which are listed. Peter Hartwig also has produced an excellent ebook on posing titled The Encyclopedia of Classic Physique and Bodybuilding Posing, which I will be reviewing for you guys thanks to my collaboration with Pete. And of course, this book is available online at petehartwig.bodysculpting.teachable.com. I do hope to review the book live with Pete in the near future, so stay tuned for that video coming soon. Anyway, that's it from me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm saying bye for now. As a natural bodybuilder, it is imperative to know your own testosterone levels, as they are a reflection of the anabolic environment created by your diet and training. I would highly recommend using the male hormone test kit from Let's Get Checked, and make sure you use my code GOLDEN30 for a 30% discount. Again, the advantage of checking yourself regularly is that you will know how well your body is anabolically primed to put on the much desired muscle you are working for. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Vince Gironda's approach to bodybuilding, his principles, and all these tips of wisdom that he has, I mean, there's so much stuff that probably hasn't been proven by science, and it will take science to prove or disprove Vince. But to be honest, these three books, I believe, which I call the Classic Physique Bundle, are the best books that Vince ever came out with. And they, of course, are the Wild Physique, the Master Series, and the Pro Series. Have a look at it this way. The Wild Physique, I believe, is like the ABCs of Vince Gironda's principles to bodybuilding. He teaches you the exercises and his principles, but how do you put them together? Well, the Master Series is a 14-month program of using all of these principles, all of the diets that Vince came out with, all of the exercises, and believe me, it's a brilliant, brilliant program. Many people have used it. I know personally a lot of bodybuilders that have actually used it and made fantastic results with it. And of course, the Pro Series was a book that he came out with later on, specially targeted for getting into competition. It's just these three books, as I call it, the Classic Physique Bundle, Vince's best work, and available, of course, at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Now, the Pro Series of Bodybuilding, which was targeted for professional bodybuilders, contains 6 programs, each of which go for 2 months each. So it's a whole year, again, in preparation for competition. Online training is now available, including my new program, Novice to Classic, a program geared towards beginners and novices looking at developing a classic physique, as well as Classic Cut, geared at those who wish to lose weight and gain muscle fast. Details available at www.goldeneraBooking.com. Need a bodybuilding poster for your gym or office? Then check out Ironman Magazine archive.smugmug.com for the highest quality posters on the planet. Scroll through the galleries of all the legends, including greats such as Arnold, Frank Zane, Sergio Oliva, Serge Nubret, Tom Platz, and Larry Scott, and much, much more, and select your poster now. To support your favorite YouTube channel, please visit teespring.com/stores/Golden Era Bookworm for merchandise, including t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, phone cases, and much, much more. Once again at teespring.com/stores/Golden Era Bookworm. Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding.
I don't think that Bill Phillips looked at it as, I want to compete against them. I want to destroy them.
If they pass legislation basically making any type of food supplement a prescription item, that would be the end, the death of the entire food supplement industry.
Take your vitamin pill now.
In the 1960s, the sports supplement industry was barely emerging.
I think the reason why Joe Weider was so successful was he had Arnold on his side.
He wasn't selling supplements. He was in the dream business.
Joe Weider was a marketing genius.
People would say the promotions or the endorsements back then were cheesy. To me, it wasn't. I loved it.
Fitness was taking off. You know, fitness became cool. You had a lot of readers that wanted to be like the stars that they idolized.
Bill's strength is his marketing savvy. He's a marketing genius.
Got it. It's only vitamin.
The right of American citizens to have free access to dietary supplements of their choice.
Consult your physician. You might as well consult the next guy you meet on the street. They don't know a damn thing about vitamins and nutrition.
The dietary supplement industry became the #2 most regulated industry. Nuclear, dietary supplements, pharmaceutical. We are more regulated than drugs.
They come in and you need to allow the FDA. They have jurisdiction.
The enforcement is kind of the questionable side of it, and how do they really get a handle on this monster?
A lot of people tell me that the dietary supplement industry is completely unregulated. It's the wild, wild west out there. It's a free-for-all. That could not be further from the truth.
A dietary supplement is not allowed to have a side effect. I always say the pharmaceutical has to have a minimum of 100 side effects in order for it to be a drug.
And now, it's a $40 billion industry and growing.
That's the really interesting thing, is the cast of characters from the 80s, when it was kind of iffy, to now when it's a lot more legitimate.
They made it sound cutting edge, revolutionary, and different, and I want that. That's cool.
We are in this industry to improve our health. It's not just a vanity project here. We're working on our lifeline. We eat a certain way to improve our health. We train a certain way to improve our health. Supplements are just that. They supplement your work, your graft, your nutrition.
They demonize dietary supplements, but they say all you need is real food. Well, what's a real food?
They pump you up and get you hard, stronger, faster, bigger.
Doc, I want to take this weight gain. I want to take this pre-workout. Doctor's, no way. That stuff, we don't know what's in that. It could be, no way. I'm not going to give you, it's going to kill the industry, bottom line.
So I must have drank so much protein powder from age 15 to 18 that my head was going to explode.
I believed in metrics so much that I would probably punch somebody in the face if they tried to take it away from me.